You probably enjoy card games if you're watching this video. If you want a fun way to enjoy a card game with friends and family, Doomlings has a new expansion, Legends of Enderis, available now on their website. This new product includes 121 new cards added to the base game to spice up the experience. This expansion also includes the introduction of Treasures, which is a new mechanic that adds a whole new layer of depth and strategy to the game. Click the link in the description below to get 15% off your order using code LUFY at checkout. Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again, and I know it's been a while. I know. 3 weeks or so since I've uploaded a video, but now with EBO2 right around the corner, I'm very excited to be back. But before we get into EBO2, we have the very beginning of May going to online regionals, a couple more like store championships and stuff like that. A couple of treasure cups and whatnot, but a lot of online events. So we are wrapping up OP10 by going over a couple of deck lists today that I thought were very interesting. Some of which we're going to start with are actually just going to be very standard, that we've been seeing in the meta quite a bit. But, they just did really well in my event that I just hosted this past Monday, my Bounty Battle series. It was our 6th tournament. And we had an incredible turnout and an incredible event. Just big shout out to Guildhall Gaming for hosting that and really providing some awesome prizes for the players there. But I want to go over some of the deck lists that did very well there, but also some of these that have been doing very well at some of the in-person regionals all across the world. We've got some that are from Mulheim, we've got some from Montreal, we've got some from here in Peoria, Illinois. There's a few that I just thought were very interesting, so I kind of wanted to touch base on some of those, and yeah, let's just hop into it. All right, so to start us off, in first place on the event that we just hosted this past Monday, the Bounty Battle number 6, was Christian's Teach, taking first place. It was really cool too to see some of the matchups that he ended up having, but also in the finals, it was a Teach versus Teach matchup. And typically, I like to. That's part of the reason why I don't play the mirror very much, or play this deck very much, is because of the mirror. I just think it's so miserable, but at the same time, like when we were watching it, it was very, very like decision orientation based. Like it was very skill based. I love to watch it. It was actually really cool to see how it all played out. But yeah, Christian ended up taking it, getting first place with Teach. I do think that the list is very standard, so I don't think there's like anything really super crazy or spicy in here. But I think that just seeing how Teach has been kind of evolving between the different ideas, the other Teach player was in fact playing the 3-cost event. I bid 500 million. So it was very interesting to see some of the turns where he was able to utilize that exceptionally well. Shut off an effect, use that for some form of removal on a card that was very tricky to deal with. So I found it to be really cool, and if you want to watch the finals, you can check out the live streams here on YouTube, or you can go and watch my Twitch VOD. We've got all the matchups in there, and we were able to catch a few each round. After, let's say, the feature match was done, we would go catch another match. So we were able to see honest to God, a pretty cool diversity of leaders and some pretty awesome matchups. But congratulations again to Christian for taking first here. Like I said, this does seem like a very standard list. The only thing that I've been finding a little interesting about Teach as of late is that they have been running slightly more 2K counters. I've been seeing some kind of lean towards the 7 2K counter side. Christian felt comfortable running 7, and obviously, it worked pretty well for him. But just seeing them go maybe up a little bit from 6 to 8, the stage kind of allows you to be a little greedy on that. Just being able to, find and see your pieces more, comfortably, I guess, is a good word to say, or more reliably. But yeah, Christian crushing it, going 6-0 with Teach in that event. So happy to see it, and congratulations to him. We also had Liam taking second place with Shanks. This build had a couple of interesting ideas into it that I haven't been typically seeing. I've just been, kind of looking elsewhere, and it seems like a lot of the builds have just kind of altogether cut some of the cards that Liam was choosing to play, but obviously it worked out really well for him. But running more of like the Straw Hat package, but without the Straw Hat Searcher, so having the Sanji 2k counter, also having the Chopper blocker, but this is just a staple now, and of course the 5-cost Luffy that every Shanks deck has been playing more or less. I think this card is just too good not to play. I think on your turn 3, it's just an exceptional turn, being able to play this down. So whenever I play up against the Shanks and they don't see this, I am the happiest I could ever be. The one thing that I did find very interesting, though, was that he did choose to play Marco. And I found this a little bit interesting simply because he wasn't playing, why am I forgetting the name of the card? Building Snake, or he wasn't playing the Hongo, but instead opted for Lime Juice as the 2k counter here. I personally love Lime Juice over Hongo every day of the week, just because you can get around blockers a little bit more easily. The only tricky thing is that, those two cards specifically work very well with Marco as well as Ben Beckman. So I did find that a little bit interesting, but I do think there is some merit around, being able to do a double removal play using Gum Gum Mole Pistol here to reduce something, KO another character, and then play out Marco to KO another character. Obviously, that's not what you're, optimally trying to do with your 9-Dawn turn on Shanks, but I think that there are, a little bit of spots for wiggle room there. And yeah, I obviously doing really well, taking second place with Shanks. Congratulations again to Liam for that. I feel like Shanks and Teach more or less have kind of just been solved. You can still build them in various ways, but it feels as though there is like a very core, like 45 cards now. Like there's a little bit of tech room, but I think that the Animal Kingdom package has been more or less kind of phased out, which is honestly nice to see as a Purple Luffy player. But we also had Johan taking, I believe, 5th place with Usopp in the event. And this is very reminiscent of the build from the Virginia Regional that is running the 4 of King Kong Gun. I think this card is just far too good not to play. And we watched one of Johan's games, and he was absolutely able to just crush it with this card in his hand. Like, it's so terrifying that you have to respect a card that gets double the value and it can give double attack potentially, right? So like just being able to get 6 Dawn for 3 already is absurd, absolutely absurd. But being able to potentially also threaten lethal with a double attack plus 6k, it's kind of absurd. Yeah, but I like the build here. I was a little bit interested into the Red Rock because personally, when I've run this deck, it felt as though I'm not really prioritizing removal as much as I am just all around, just kind of winning board and, making sure that my hand is exactly what I want with Leo and Rebecca, and kind of removing what needs to be removed through effects with Kyros. So I thought that the Red Rock was a little interesting, but I don't think that we saw it come up in the match that we watched of his, but maybe I am mistaken about that. Bringing Frankie down to 3, though, I think to fit in the Red Rock. So it was Frankie down to 3 and Ideo down to 3 to fit those cards in was really interesting. Still running the 7-cost Rush Luffy, or I say Rush Luffy, but just being able to attack active characters and then restand as well. I should probably call it the restand Luffy more often, is very interesting. So obviously Johan doing exceptionally well here, taking 5th place, so big congrats to him. And then going into 6th, this was awesome. I think this was probably the most fun deck to watch throughout the event, because he was just coming back from board states that I thought were unwinnable, and he just kept doing exceptionally well. So Carlos here taking 6th place with Gecko Moria, I believe going X1, or no, he was X2, the highest placing X2, was 4-0 and then lost the last 2 rounds, one of which we unfortunately did end up watching, which was, I believe, the Teach matchup. But all around, like, this deck is a more or less a copy paste, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's like a 1 card, 2 card difference from the list that topped in Montreal, I believe. There was a list that got, I believe, 5th place or 6th place in Montreal with Gecko Moria. And it's basically a copy paste of that, which I thought was really cool. The new additions to the deck being the Ryuma from OP10, giving a double attack character that can be played out using your leader effect. So absolutely love that. I think that this was a card that we didn't see particularly as a threat in the matches that we watched during the event, but I know for a fact that this card is just, it's so scary. Just Don X1, 7k double attack, you know, coming straight at you. And it's a very easy card to pitch using leader effect as well. So I really like the idea here. Running the Kuzan, I think this card has just been the bread and butter for Gecko for the longest time anyways. Not running the brand new to kind of set up the trash as much as we might have in the past when there were more Navy targets, such as the Ice Age and stuff like that. But I think it's understandable that, you know, cutting the brand new but still keeping Kuzan in, but instead of brand new having Mancherry being able to bring back our Rebeccas, being able to bring back our Brooks, a bunch of characters that would be very, very helpful, you know, for us. Just being able to recur them over and over again. If you get to that point in the game where you have Mancherry and your opponent can't get rid of it on the board every turn, then you're just going to run away with it over and over again, because you're going to get a free block with Rebecca, pick a card up, potentially play a card out if need be. I love to see it. The 3 of Kaido, I believe, is in the deck to answer some of the more tricky 8-cost characters, 7-cost characters that you can find. It also helps with, you know, dealing with a lot of the top end of Shanks in conjunction with Tempest Kick. So I love the idea of Kaido just being in the deck. There is one card that I do wish that it would fit into the deck. Unfortunately, it just doesn't feel right. Is the 4-cost Hina from the starter deck, I believe 19, if I'm not mistaken. But it just doesn't feel right with the way that the deck is playing right now. So I totally understand how they're building it. And this seems really cool. I'm personally questionable on 3 Hogback, just because I think this card is super good and it's like a must-have in some situations to be able to keep your hand size similar to your opponent's. But I mean, Carlos did exceptionally well, and obviously the deck in Mulheim did exceptionally well also. So big congratulations to those two for crushing it with Gecko Moria. You know, bringing a deck that I thought was down in the grave back to life is really cool. So I love to see that. But speaking of decks that I'm actively playing, I did end up seeing this Twitter post, which I thought was really cool, was in Mulheim at the No Heroes One Piece Regional. We did have a going second Luffy deck. This was so neat. I've been trying this out actually a little bit. I've been trying out a couple of games of this. Now, personally, I'm not huge on Gamma Knife at the moment. I don't think there's enough Bonnie players or Red Green Smoker players to be warranting the card at all. So I'm kind of like, you know, on the card a little bit. But I am testing the list, like pretty much exact ratios, but I've cut the Gamma Knife or I've put it to 1, and I've just been trying a few other things. I just thought this was really neat. Like, you want to go second, you get the Bon Clay or you get the Double Finger or the Zoro Jiro for the ramp on turn 2, play them down, you'll be able to, you know, provide some sort of ramp. And then you have all of your top end. Your 9-cost Linlins at 4, your Sanji's at 4, your Luffy's at 4, even one of Kaido, which I thought was really interesting. I think the Kaido actually is something that, through playing a couple of games, I understand why he runs a 1 of it. It's really nice for being able to close out game, or potentially just remove 2 things off of the board and then put yourself in a spot where you can't lose with 1 active for Gum Gum Giant. So I've actually found the list to be very interesting. It's really cool. That's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, was this is a different idea of Luffy, you know, more than just different from the typical idea that a lot of Luffy's or Pluffy just wants to go first. So people will have to respect this now. You know, people will have to go, oh, you know what? I want to take first, because I feel like the majority of players will be playing a more standard list. But this list is floating around to be able to go, oh, did you take first? That's fine. I'm ready. And it was cool too. He did post his matchups, so I was able to, you know, see exactly what his games looked like. We did have Shanks going second, Bonnie going second, taking the dubs there. Doflamingo going second, unfortunately losing, but Doflamingo does have a bit of a favor in this matchup, as well as going first is very good for them, especially if they see that T-Chong curve. And with this deck not running the Hitokiri, but instead running the Miss Double Finger, it's a bit of a trade-off there. But does win into Usopp and Purple Luffy, Shanks again, and Red Green Smoker unfortunately taking the L. I'm wondering, because I feel like with his deck list, this would do pretty well. I kind of wonder how this match went, like if he just maybe didn't see his pieces, didn't draw too well, because just looking at it, I feel like this matchup would be on paper pretty decent going second, but I'm not entirely sure. And then we also had a Reiju here. I believe this Reiju was from the Mulheim event, and this took 3rd place. I've always found Reiju to be a really fun deck to play. It didn't get a ton of support in OP10, but just kind of making it a little more consistent, finding the Sanji Searcher, so being able to look at the top 5, picking up a Germa card, super solid for how this deck wants to play out. It also did pick up the Foxy 2K, which is relevant simply because we are running Porsche, and Porsche is just fantastic for that turn 2, kind of get way ahead of your opponent, play out the Ichiji, and you know, then ramp into the 7 costs as well using the effect. So it does feel like this deck has to see a lot of things have to go right for this deck to really kind of shine. So that does scare me a little bit, but obviously it worked out really well for him. Choosing to run 2 of the Gamma Knife as well. I think a lot of people were respecting Bonnie as well as Red Green Smoker quite a bit. I think Gamma Knife is nice into Shanks occasionally, but I don't know. I personally, the more I've been playing the deck, this card definitely feels like it's taking up space where it doesn't need to be. Not in just Reiju, but in many purple lists as a whole. So I personally have been kind of either cutting it to 1 or just not running it at all, because it feels more of like a win more card than a win condition. Yeah, I like the one of Black Bug though. I think there's a lot of 5 costs that are really tricky to deal with. I actually think it would be interesting to see more of this card in the deck versus the Gamma Knife, just because it would help very much in those green matchups as well as into, you know, purple matchups. But I do feel like this deck is fairly favored into Purple Luffy already. It does fairly well, you know, dealing with like how aggressive Luffy wants to be, but at the same time, it's very aggressive itself, especially when you do see... Oh my goodness, actually, I did not notice that before the first time. He's not running Judge. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. How did I not notice that the first time? Wow, he's not running Judge. All right, well, that makes this list even more interesting. That's pretty crazy, because I feel like Judge is, even as just a one-of in the deck, it feels so good into so many matchups. Like, I know he wasn't running the Niji, but I guess maybe that's why he's not running the Judge. Like, instead he was just opting for that. Oh, interesting. All right, nice. Congrats to him though. And then one of the coolest decks. I love this deck. It's just, unfortunately, I don't think it's like great right now. I think you have to have a pretty good matchup spread in order to do exceptionally well with this deck. But obviously, This guy did so much better than I would have ever with this list. He took Black Purple to the Montreal Regional and ended up getting 5th place with Black Purple Luffy. Love to see it. There was just so many ratios in this that I thought were like bizarre to me. Like only 2 of the Bond Clay. I feel like if this deck doesn't see Bond Clay or the Zoro, it feels so tough to get where you need to be with the list. So I personally am like, I'm very curious as to how his matchups went. If he just maybe saw the right cards at the right time, but because this is only 6 options for your ramp on turn 2, which allows you to get to your Sanji play and then thereafter get to your 9-cost play. So I was very surprised to see this, but I thought it was very interesting. Also running the Gum Gum Lightning, I think is awesome. I think this card is perfect for this deck since we don't have Moria anymore. Moria being a huge loss for this deck, unfortunately, but I think that this is huge. Yeah, I like this card. It deals with a lot of the different potential turn 2, turn 3 plays that your opponents have typically very easily. This is a great answer to the 5-cost Rush Luffy into Shanks. This does really well into Bonnie and Red Green Smoker. Does very well into Purple Luffy because you're not going Dawn Minus or anything. You're doing Dawn -2, but leader effect, bringing it back, getting that active Dawn, removing a Sangoro, removing a Luffy Taro. I personally like to see it, so it's a really cool idea. Very cool list. 2 of the Kaido, 3 of the 10-cost Luffy. He had the end game figured out, but it was just a little interesting how the early game felt like a little lackluster when I was looking at it, but obviously he's cooking something here. It's working very well for him. So and congratulations for the 5th place with Black Purple, which I'm sure a lot of people didn't see coming, but I personally have faith that this deck is going to be one of the better decks in the near future. And that wraps it up for the deck list that I wanted to go over today, but I do have some EBO2 thoughts and some EBO2 ideas that I'll be uploading in the near future. I also want to mention that I have been posting a couple of articles and just guides and stuff in general about the meta and whatnot on Iris. So if you want to check out Iris down below, we're trying to create basically a one-stop shop for all One Piece content and One Piece knowledge that can be freely accessed by the community. And yeah, if you have anything that you'd like to post on there, I'd love to see it. I'm always on the lookout to see if anybody does post some articles or guides that might be free and linked to the community. That way we can start kind of growing together, and I love that idea as a whole. So other than that, I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you again to all the people that pre-ordered the new playmat. They are so cool for the Bounty Battle series. I absolutely love them. Just had a bunch of the pre-orders shipped out, and now they're available for order as well. So big shout out to you guys, and other than that, I'll see you soon. Take care. Peace.